Right now we're going to be looking at reading a ruler. We're starting our measurement section here. So I've got this first 2 3/8 of an inch of a ruler, just so we can see the marks on it a little bit better. And with this ruler, the first half or the first inch is divided into 30/2 of an inch. Okay, so we can be a little bit more accurate if we're measuring something smaller in that first inch. Then after the first inch, it's divided into 16ths of an inch. And I think most of you know if we're halfway between 0 and 1, that's a half an inch. And if we move over to the next section, it's still the half-inch mark. Now in that second section, we're at 1.5 inches. But right now, we're just going to look at the fractions of an inch. Now, if we look at halfway between the start and the half-inch mark, that's 1/4 of an inch. And if you'll notice the lengths of the lines, the longest lines are at the 1-inch mark. We start out at 0, 1 inch, 2 inch. Then our next longest line, it's not quite as long as the inch lines, are the half inches. Then if we go down to our next longest line, those would reduce to 1/4 inches. Now if we look at this, we've got another line that's the same length here. And so we could count from the beginning. We've got 1/4, 2/4, 2/4 reduces to 1/2, and 3/4. And then the same over on our inch that's divided into 1/16. Now if we take half of 1/4, which is the same as multiplying times 1/2, we end up at this mark right here, which is our next longest mark, which is our 1/8 of an inch. And then again, we can count 1/8, 2/8, which reduces to 1/4, 3/8, 4/8, 4 over 8 reduces to 1/2, 5, 6/8, which reduces to 3/4, and then 7/8. All right, now let's look at the 16ths of an inch. All right, here I've marked all the 1/16ths of an inch. Counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Now, if we look at the fractions in yellow, all of those have an odd numerator and an even denominator. That means they're reduced as far as they can go. We can't reduce those fractions anymore. But if we look at those top ones, we've got an even numerator and an even denominator, so we know that those fractions can be reduced. 2/16, 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 16 one time. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 16 8 times, so that's 1/8 of an inch. So each of those fractions can be reduced to our 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8. So depending on how comfortable you are counting, you could count every line over to a mark, get your fraction, then reduce it if you can. Or we can look at our lines. Okay, this line, that's our 1/2 mark. These are our 1/4 marks. So that'd be 1/4, that would be 3/4, and our 8ths. And then in that first inch, we can actually, go all the way down to 1/32 of an inch, up to 31/32 of an inch. All right, now depending on the type of ruler you're using, and I see a lot of students make this mistake when they make a measurement like this, they look at that and they say, oh, that's 1 inch. And some of you may be looking at that going, well, why would the student measure it like that? And some of you are going, well, that is at 1 inch. The problem is with the design of some rulers, we don't start at the very edge of the ruler. Now, some of them you do, some of you don't. So you've got to be familiar with your ruler. With this one, there's a gap between the end of the ruler and that first mark. So we should actually measure from that first mark. And so here we get 1 1/8 of an inch. All right, now with this one, we're past an inch. So I'm now going to have a 1 and then a fraction. We're on the shortest mark, so I know that's going to be a 1/16 of an inch. And I can start actually at the 1/2 inch mark right here. If you're pretty good with fractions, I know that the 1/2 inch mark is 8/16. So if I go over 1 more, that's going to be 9/16. Or we can start right here at our inch mark, our 1 inch mark, and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/16. So that's going to be 1 9/16 of an inch. All right, so now we can shorten this and look at our 32nds of an inch, because we're below the 1 inch and we're on the very shortest line right here. So I know that's going to be a 32nd of an inch. We're going to have a 32 in the denominator. Again, this line right here is our 1/2 inch mark. 1/2 of 32 is 16. So I could subtract 1 from 16 and get to 15. So that's going to be 15 over 32. Or I can start here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's going to be 15 32nds of an inch. All right, we'll look at one more. This one is past the 2, so I know it's going to be 2 and then a fraction. And one way we count it, we can just start here and count 1, 2, 3. That's going to be 4/16. But now I've got an even number in the numerator, so I know my fraction can be reduced. And that's going to be reduced to 2 1/4, or you may recognize this is the 1/8 mark. Well, if we look at it, we got the shortest is 1/16. Stepping up, we go to 1/8. Stepping up to the next one is 1/4. All right, now let's look at finding the perimeter of a rectangle. Okay, so with a rectangle, we just add all 4 sides together. So if we look at the mark on this one, this is at the 1/16 mark. And so we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13/16. Or if you'd counted the 32nds, you would have gotten 26 over 32. Both of those are even, so I know it can be reduced to 13/16. Now I want to measure the other side, and I get 18 over 32. Again, if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I can count all the way up to 18 over 32. Or I could see that I'm at the 16th mark, so I know that it's going to reduce to something over 16. Or I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/16. All right, now I'm going to add these two sides together. We have a common denominator, which remember we're adding fractions. The denominators have to be the same, and then we add the numerators. And I get 22 over 16. Now I'm not going to reduce this fraction yet because that just gives me the length of these two sides. So I'm halfway around the rectangle, so I need to double the 22 over 16. So I can just say times 2, or 22 plus 16 over 22 plus 16. I don't know if I said that right. 22 over 16 plus 22 over 16. Yeah. Right, so we end up with 44 over 16. Now I can reduce my fraction and then change it to a mixed number, or I could change it to a mixed number and then reduce it. Here I chose to just go ahead and change it to a mixed number and then reduce. 16 will go into 44 2 times with 12 left over. Then 12 over 16, 4 goes into both of those. So I end up with 2 3/4 of an inch to get around this rectangle. All right, let's look at one more example. Now, if I've got a shape like this, I'm just going to have to measure all 4 sides, add all 4 sides together, and then reduce. All right, so if I look at this first length, that's 24 over 32. And I'm going to go ahead and use that 30/2 of an inch. I'm not going to reduce my fractions yet because I want my denominators to be the same. So if I reduce, then I might have to go back up again. All right, so I've got 24 over 32. Then when I measure this length, I've got 11 over 32. Now see, if I'd reduced this first fraction, that would reduce to 1/4. Then I wouldn't be able to add it to this fraction. I'd have to go back up to 24 over 32. So that's why I left the denominator at 32. All right, looking at this side, this goes the full inch. Now I could write down 1 inch with no fraction. I want to go ahead and put 32 over 32, which is the same as 1 inch. And then I want to measure this side, which comes to 18 over 32. All right, again, all of my denominators are the same. If they're not the same, then I'm going to have to change some. And if I add 24 plus 11 plus 32 plus 18, I get 85 over 32. Now, 2 times 32 is 64. 3 times 32 would be 96. So 32 goes into 85 2 times. Then if I subtract the 64 from the 85, I get 21. So it's going to be 21 over 32. So we've got 2 21/32 of an inch for the perimeter of that shape. All right. So when we're calculating the perimeter, we just add all the sides together. Make sure our fractions have the same denominator. We add the numerators and then reduce and change to a mixed number. We can change it to a mixed number and reduce, either way.